Let me begin with a slightly uncomfortable truth. Most UPSC aspirants think reasoning is the easiest part of CSAT, and that belief quietly destroys their score. Every year in the exam hall, students lose marks not because reasoning is difficult, but they make small logical mistakes under time pressure. But they make small logical mistakes under time pressure. They read too fast, they assume too quickly, they try to solve everything, and CSAT punishes that behavior. Today, we are going to correct the completely. Today, we are going to correct that completely. In this session, I will show you how UPSC actually designs reasoning questions, the 5 traps that most aspirants miss, and the exact exam hall structure that allows you to control reasoning safely. This is not a trick session. This is about logical discipline. What is resetting the perception? Let us first reset the perception. CSAT reasoning is not a puzzle competition. CSAT reasoning is not a puzzle competition. It is not testing how intelligent you are, and it is definitely not testing how many puzzles you can solve. UPSC reasoning tests something much more subtle. UPSC reasoning tests something much more subtle. It tests decision maker under pressure. It tests decision maker under pressure. The exam hall creates 3 problems simultaneously. What are they? Limited time, multiple question types, and psychological pressure. Limited time, multiple question types, and psychological pressure. In that environment, even intelligent students start making careless assumptions. That is where marks disappear. So, the goal today is not to learn tricks. The goal is to understand the architecture of reasoning. Once you see that architecture, reasoning becomes predictable. Reasoning becomes predictable. So, why intelligent aspirants lose marks? Now, let us ask an important question. Why do intelligent aspirants still lose marks in reasoning? There are 3 more reasons. There are 3 major reasons. First, they assume reasoning is naturally solvable. They assume reasoning is naturally solvable. And second, they approach reasoning casually compared to GS, that is general studies. They approach reasoning casually compared to GS. And third and final one, they try to solve everything. They try to solve everything. The third mistake is the most dangerous one because CSAT reasoning is not designed for universal solving. It is designed to reward controlled attempts. In other words, the exam is not asking you, can you solve every puzzle? The exam is asking you, can you identify which puzzles deserve your time? What exam is asking you? Can you identify which puzzles deserve your time? That distinction is extremely important. Just listen. I will repeat it again. In other words, the exam is not asking you, can you solve every puzzle? The exam is asking you, can you identify which puzzles deserve your time? Deserve your time. That distinction is extremely important. What actually UPSC tests? UPSC reasoning tests four core abilities: reading discipline, conditional interpretation, option discrimination, and time management. Four core abilities. What are they? Reading discipline, conditional interpretation, option discrimination, and time management. Notice something important here. None of these abilities requires extraordinary intelligence. None of these abilities requires extraordinary intelligence. They require clarity. They require clarity of thinking. That means reasoning becomes a trainable skill. What? A trainable skill. That means reasoning becomes a trainable skill. That requires what? Clarity of thinking. And your logical structure becomes clear. The section becomes stable. The section becomes stable. The five buckets of reasoning we have to examine. Now, let us move to the structure. Almost all CSAT reasoning questions fall into five buckets. What are they? One is direct logic. Second one, inferential logic. Third one, arrangement puzzles. And fourth one, symbolic relations. And final and last one, fifth one, that is hybrid questions. Direct logic, inferential logic, arrangement puzzles, symbolic relations, and hybrid questions. Understanding these buckets is extremely powerful because the moment you identify the bucket, you already know the solving method, and that saves time. Let us examine these one by one. Bucket number one, that is direct logic. Direct logic includes questions like direction sense, blood relations, ranking, coding and decoding series. These are generally the safest reasoning questions. These are generally the safest reasoning questions. Why? Because they are visual. They can be solved using simple diagrams. Strong candidates attempt this early in the paper because they stabilize confidence. Because they are visual, they can be solved using simple diagrams. Strong candidates what to do? Attempt this early in the paper because they stabilize confidence. So, bucket number two, inferential logic. Inferential reasoning includes syllogism, statement conclusion, statement assumption, cause and effect. These type of questions. These questions test logical interpretation. These questions test what? Logical interpretation. The biggest mistake students make here is using real world knowledge, using real world knowledge. But reasoning does not care about real world truth. It only cares about the information provided in the particular question. Your job is not to judge the statement, your job is to evaluate the logic. Your job is to evaluate the logic. Bucket number 3, arrangement puzzles. Arrangement questions include seating arrangement, linear order, circular order, conditional grouping. These questions are extremely interesting because they can either be very quick or extremely time consuming. And that creates a psychological trap. Students feel compelled to finish the puzzle even when the puzzle is expanding. The correct skill here is time judgment. The correct skill here is time judgment, not puzzle solving. Bucket number 4, symbolic logic. Symbolic questions look like this: A is greater than B, B is less than C, C is not equal to D. Student rush through these questions, but the correct method is very simple. First, decode the relationships, then translate them into a simple chain. Only after that should you evaluate the options. This prevents confusion. This is the order of doing these questions. First, decode the relationship, then translate them into a simple chain. Then only you should evaluate the options. This prevents confusion. Bucket number 5, hybrid questions. Hybrid questions combine logic with arithmetic or multiple conditions. These questions look simple at first glance, but during solving, they expand. This is why they distort time. The key skill here is recognizing early whether the puzzle is growing beyond safe limits or not. If it is, you must move forward. Otherwise, you don't. The three-step reading method. Every reasoning question should follow a simple reading structure. That is, step 1, identify the question type. Step 2, identify the anchor. And step 3, choose the solving method. Step 1, identify the question type. Step 2, identify the anchor. And step 3, choose the solving method. This structure reduces confusion dramatically. This structure reduces confusion dramatically because you stop reacting emotionally to puzzles. You start processing them logically. That is what important. That is what is important for reasoning, solving reasoning questions. Logical traps. Now let us discuss the traps. 5 traps appear repeatedly. Those are what? 1. Familiarity trap, overthinking trap, the real world knowledge trap, the time sink trap, and the option similarity trap. These 5 traps. Most aspirants fall into at least one of these traps during the exam. Once you become aware of them, reasoning becomes much safer. The first and foremost is the familiarity trap. What is the familiarity trap? Most aspirants fall into the familiarity trap very easily. A question appears from a topic you have seen many times before, like direction sense, blood relations, coding and decoding. And the moment you see it, your mind says, this is easy. This is easy. And the moment you see it, your mind says, what? This is easy. I know this. So you start solving quickly. But reasoning questions often hide one small condition that changes the entire structure. But reasoning questions often hide one small condition that changes the entire structure. A term is reversed, a relationship is indirect, or an option includes a subtle twist. Because the question looked familiar, you stopped reading carefully, and that is how easy questions become wrong answers. Simple. That is why strong candidates treat every reasoning question as new, even if the topic looks familiar. This is what is important. The overthinking trap. Some students do the opposite. They overthink simple questions instead of reading the question calmly and solving it directly. They start imagining complicated patterns. This happens frequently in serious questions, coding and decoding, symbolic relations. A simple logic exists, but the student assumes UPSC must have hidden something deeper. So they build unnecessary complexity. By the time they realize the mistake, they have already lost time. Some students do what? Some students do the opposite in the overthinking trap. They overthink simple questions. Instead of reading the question calmly and solving it directly, they start imagining complicated patterns. This happens frequently in where series questions, coding and decoding, symbolic relations, etc. A simple logic exists, but the student assumes UPSC must have hidden something deeper. So they build unnecessary complexity. By the time they realize the mistake, they have already lost time. That is major drawback. Remember this principle. UPSC reasoning rewards clarity, not complexity. If the structure is simple, trust trust the structure. That's it. The real world, the real world trap. This trap appears mainly in syllogism, statement and conclusion, statement and assumption questions. Students begin judging statements usually using real world knowledge. For example, a statement may something that appears unrealistic. Statement may appear something that appears unrealistic. Students think this cannot be true in real life, but reasoning questions do not care about real life. They only care about logical structure within the statement. The exam is testing your ability to follow logic, not your opinion, not your judgment, simply logic. In reasoning, you must temporarily ignore the real world and operate strictly inside the logic of the question, the particular question, what you are trying to solve. The option similarity trap. Sometimes two options look almost identical. Then students panic. They assume the question must be extremely tricky. They assume the question must be extremely tricky. So they start resolving the entire puzzle again. But usually the difference between the options is very small and very precise. Maybe one word, one relation, or one direction. Instead of resolving everything, strong candidates compare the options carefully and identify the logical difference here between the options, not entire passage, not entire question. The correct answer often appears through option elimination. This is most important, not through repeated solving. You have to keep your mind always, as far as CSAT is concerned, reasoning in particular, option elimination. And the last one and fifth one, the time sink trap. This is most important and the most dangerous trap. The most dangerous trap is the time sink. One puzzle begins consuming your attention. You invest 3 minutes, then 4 minutes, then 5 minutes. At that point, your mind refuses to leave the puzzle because you feel I have already invested too much time, and suddenly 10 minutes of your exam disappear. Gone, gone 10 minutes. This destroys the rhythm of the paper. This destroys what? The rhythm of the paper. Strong candidates never allow this. They follow a simple rule. If a puzzle does not open within 40 seconds of structural understanding, they move forward. They move forward. You can always return later, but you cannot recover lost time. This is most simple rule and important rule. I am repeating again. If a puzzle does not open within 40 seconds of structural understanding, move forward. You can always return later, but you cannot recover lost time. That is most important. The 20-40 second rule. What is the 20-40 second rule? Use a simple rule, that is first 20 seconds identify the question type. First 20 seconds identify the question type. Next 20 seconds understand the structure. Understand the structure of the question. If clarity still does not appear, do not continue solving immediately. If clarity still does not appear, what you have to do is do not continue solving immediately. Move forward. Return later. This rule protects your time. CSAT preparation using this four-layer method: PYQ mapping, concept to clarity, timed practice, and full CSAT simulation. As far as whole CSAT paper is concerned, also this is type of structuring, layering, preparation is need of the hour. We have to examine the exam hall strategy of CSAT. As far as CSAT in general, reasoning in particular. Let us now discuss something that many aspirants underestimate: exam hall strategy. Reasoning is not difficult in isolation, but inside the exam hall, three things happen simultaneously. Reasoning is not difficult in isolation, but inside the exam hall, three things happen simultaneously. What are they? What are they? You are you face time pressure, you face multiple question types, and you face psychological pressure. Even intelligent students begin rushing. That is why reasoning errors appear. So goal in the exam hall is very simple: not solving everything but controlling the section calmly. Step 1: scan before solving. Scan the question before solving. The first rule is to scan the question or scan the section quickly. Do not start solving the very first reasoning question you see. Do not start solving the very first reasoning question you see. Take 20 to 30 seconds and observe the reasoning questions in the paper. Remaining questions you are trying to identify: direct logic questions, inferential reasoning, puzzles, symbolic relations. Direct logic questions are usually safe early attempts. Large puzzles may be time traps, but direct logic questions are usually safe for early attempts. This quick, this quick scan helps you choose the right entry point. Strong candidates choose questions deliberately. They do not react randomly. Step 2: take stable questions first. Start with direct logic questions. These usually include direction, sense, blood relations, ranking, simple coding and decoding, series classification. These questions stabilize your confidence. They also warm up your logical thinking. Once your mind enters the reasoning rhythm, you can move to more complex questions. Never begin your reasoning section with a large puzzle. That is a common mistake. That is why time is losing. Step 2: I'm again repeating. Take stable questions first. Start with direct logic questions. These usually include direction sense, blood relations, ranking. Direct logic questions, these are simple coding decoding, series classification. These questions stabilize your confidence. They also warm up your logical thinking. Once your mind enters the reasoning rhythm, you can move to more complex questions. Never begin your reasoning section with a large puzzle. Always start with simple questions, direct logical questions, not large puzzles. This is common mistake. Step 3: use diagrams immediately. Reasoning questions become confusing only when students try to solve them mentally. Reasoning questions become confusing only when students try to solve them mentally. Always externalize the logic. Always externalize the logic. Use arrows of directions, arrows for directions, small family diagrams for relations, chains of symbolic relations. Use all these. A 10-second diagram can save one full minute of confusion. That is why you have to use this type of diagrams. Strong candidates do not rely on memory, they rely on clear visual structure. Step 4, control puzzle investment. Now we come to the most important rule. Do not allow puzzles to consume your time uncontrollably. This step is most important. Usually students are wasting their time in these puzzle investments. Now we come to the most important rule is do not allow puzzles to consume your time uncontrollably. Some arrangement questions open quickly, others expand continuously. If a puzzle does not open within 40 seconds of structural understanding, pause, move forward, return later if time permits. Remember this principle, time lost early cannot be recovered later. You have to remember this principle again and again as far as UPSC CSAT, CSC CSAT is concerned. Time lost early cannot be recovered later. Step 5, use option elimination. Many reasoning questions can be solved through elimination, not full solving. Many reasoning questions can be solved through elimination, not full solving. Instead of solving the entire puzzle, compare options. Look for contradictions. Look for impossible relationships. Often, two options can be eliminated immediately, and that makes the answer obvious. UPSC reasoning frequently rewards a logical elimination. That is why use option elimination method, not full solving. Step 6, maintain paper rhythm. One mistake that can destroy CSAT attempt is losing the paper rhythm. One mistake, one mistake that can destroy CSAT attempt is losing the paper rhythm. This happens when a student spends 8 to 10 minutes on one puzzle. Spends 8 to 10 minutes on one puzzle. Once rhythm breaks, panic begins. Once rhythm breaks, panic begins. Strong candidates maintain steady progress. Solve a question, move forward. Solve another, move forward. Solve a question, move forward. Solve another, move forward. This rhythm protects both time and confidence. And lastly, the final rule. Let me leave you with one principle. Reasoning is not about solving everything, it is about extracting safe marks under time pressure. Again and again, I am saying this. Why? This is most important to remember. If you maintain structure, protect your time, and avoid logical traps, reasoning becomes one of the most controllable parts of CSAT. In CSAT reasoning, success is not determined by intelligence, it is determined by discipline. Let me leave you with one more important principle. Reasoning is not about solving everything, it is about extracting safe marks. If your structure is clear, if traps are visible, and if time is protected, reasoning becomes one of the most controllable parts of CSAT. Prepare structurally, practice under time pressure, and in the exam hall, control the paper, not the other way around. Before we conclude this session, Let us step back and understand the most important idea from today, that is, reasoning in CSAT is often misunderstood. Many aspirants think is a puzzle solving competition. It is not. UPSC reasoning is actually a discipline test. The exam is observing how you think under time pressure. Do you rush through familiar questions? Do you overthink simple questions? Do you apply real world knowledge where only logic matters? Do you allow puzzles to consume your time? These are the traps that quietly reduce scores. Once you begin to recognize these traps, reasoning stops feeling unpredictable. You begin to see the structure behind the questions. And when structure becomes clear, controls become possible. Control becomes possible. That is why we discussed the five reasoning buckets. That is why we discussed the logical traps. And that is why we discussed the 20-40 second rule. All of these ideas lead to one simple framework, that is structure, discipline, time control. If you maintain these three elements, reasoning becomes one of the safest sections in CSAT. Not because the questions are easy, but because your thinking becomes stable. And stability is what UPSC rewards. So remember this principle in the exam hall. Reasoning is not about solving everything. It is about extracting safe marks while protecting time. If you follow the principle consistently during practice and in the exam hall, your reasoning performance will improve significantly. In the next session, we will apply this framework to real UPSC level reasoning questions. Because understanding the structure is the first step, but applying it under pressure is what builds mastery. But applying it under pressure is what builds mastery. Until then, focus on practicing calmly, thinking clearly, and building logical discipline. Thank you. After the closing, I have to say one thing clearly. In UPSC, success is rarely about brilliance. It is about disciplined thinking. Thank you.